Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream. We're looking ahead to Game Week 10 and talking about the Game Week 9 action. We just had Aston Villa against West Ham happen just now. I'm not sure why they're doing this scheduling where you have 8 games on a Saturday, then 1 on the Sunday, and then possibly 1 on the Monday. But we have 1 game left in Game Week 9, and that is Tottenham versus Fulham. And you'd probably expect the Tottenham win, but you just never know. Some of us will have double or triple ups. This week has been quite bang average for me, but the Tottenham players could turn this small red arrow into a green one, so I'm going to see what they do. But if not, it's not the end of the world, and there's still a long way to go, of course. But we would be approaching double digits now in terms of game weeks. Game Week 10, so it's time to get our act together if we haven't already, of course. And the captaincy, decent, but not too great. I went against Salah because of the early kickoff. He still scored a brace, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. Watkins finally scored a goal whilst in my FPL team, so that's 7 game weeks where he's in my team, and 1 goal. So thank you, Watkins. Thank you a lot. And overall, you know, some decent returns here and there from Dan Burn, but Turner at the very end, just so disappointing from Nottingham Forest. Matty Cash obviously conceding there to that Jeroboam goal. Ward-Prowse now playing this deeper role, so he is actually on the chopping block potentially, despite a really good run of fixtures. And Moussa Diaby, still a really good option, I think, over the next 4 or 5 game weeks, but afterwards, of course, he definitely would be on the chopping block too. Even Haaland and Son to Saka is a consideration I'm making for Game Week 10, which I've discussed for the past couple of weeks as well. But let's get straight into your questions, your comments. Smash the like button of the stream if you enjoy it, and if we also answer your question in the end, that'll be greatly appreciated. So let's try to go from the very beginning and let's see how it all goes. So Patrick says, hi Dylan, did not go so well, not doing -4 for Salah, Gordon in for Rashford, Son, if Son doesn't go mad tomorrow. Yeah, I remember that conversation we had, and I thought, well, it wouldn't be worth it because I thought Salah would score a goal, but not like the brace or hat-trick necessary in order to justify that hit. And with Rashford, I also gave that counter-argument where I had the same thinking as well, where, oh, Rashford has a good game week, you know, coming up. He's facing Burnley. Oh, he's facing Sheffield United. And he ends up blanking time and time again. He should have scored yesterday. He didn't. I think Son could do very well, though, against Fulham, and that could soothe the pain for you. But so far, it's not looking good. And I was in a similar situation with Gordon because I could have sold Ward-Prowse to Gordon and gained 6 points from that decision. In the end, I decided to hold, roll a transfer to have 2 in Game Week 10, and it has been a bit frustrating as well. Patrick says, but finally a green arrow with 52 points, and Son, Maddison, and a doggy in Monday's game, and Cash and Diaby in today's game. Yeah, 52, it's not too bad, and I think with those 3 Spurs players, you should get 60 plus points and a green arrow, or at least cement that green arrow. So it's not too bad, of course. Not great, but not the worst in the world either. You also say have 2 free transfers and already sold Rashford for Mitoma, and consider doing -4 for Son / Maddison out for Salah, Saka, or Son Alvarez to Salah, Watkins, and getting Saka in Game Week 12. That is a great question, and honestly, it could go either way with your decisions here. But if I had to pick, it probably would be the latter transfer, getting Salah and Watkins in and getting Saka in Game Week 12 instead. I'd rather have Watkins than Saka, I believe, in Game Week 10. Of course, I might change my mind about that, and Saka is more consistent, in my opinion, than Watkins. But you look at Watkins' form, Aston Villa have won 11 home games in a row now, and Luton Town is a plum fixture, just like Sheffield United is for Arsenal. But I think Watkins could go absolutely ballistic in Game Week 10. Sanindra says, hey Dylan, another red arrow for me, but finally wildcarding this game week. I can relate to your kind of relief there. I had the same situation going into Game Week 8. Which of these would you choose? So let me just get that up here. So on a wildcard, A, Son, Soucek, Trippier. B, Burn, Son, Mitoma. C, Trippier, Mitoma, Gordon. And any 6.1 million midfielder. Is it a good option to have Son and Trippier on a wildcard, or just have one of them? Great questions, and I don't think there's a clear-cut answer, but my take, if I'm wildcarding in Game Week 10, and I said this a few weeks ago too, is to prioritise Trippier over Heung-min Son, and I think I would ditch Son on the wildcard in Game Week 10. He's still a good option, by the way, and he's got a great record against Crystal Palace. I think it's 7 goals in 12 games. I'll try to get the exact stat very soon. So, look, a lot of us might sell Son in Game Week 10, and he ends up doing really well, perhaps even better than Saka. But from the options you listed on the wildcard, I think Trippier, Mitoma, Gordon, and a 6.1 million midfielder is best. The only downside to that is you already have Mitoma and Gordon, and yet another cheap midfielder on top of that, which will probably be Pedro Neto or Hwang Hee-chan. So yeah, that's maybe not ideal. And look, option A, I think the thing that ruins it for me is Soucek. I still don't trust him. I know he's playing a more advanced role in the last few games for West Ham, to James Ward-Prowse's detriment. But yeah, I think from those trios you mentioned, I think B or C is the best. And I think, yeah, in terms of your last question, Trippier's the definite priority over Son, and you could go about Son in the Game Week 10 wildcard, but of course he's still a good option. I'm not going to discount him just yet. I just don't like Son that much from Game Week 11 onwards compared to maybe beforehand when he faced Luton and now Fulham, of course, which is still yet to happen. Gary says 80 points so far, really good. There's some good scores in the chat I can see from the corner of my eye. Watkins destroying my rank again. I give up wildcard time. Yeah, I can relate to you, Singh, as well. I think just, I still haven't fully healed from that kind of timing of selling Watkins to Alvarez in game week 6, I think it was, and then Watkins going ballistic in those 2 game weeks. And of course, you got a good haul this week, so it's not too bad. And he's been so consistent this season, but yeah, he is a bit of an FPL trial, in my opinion. Konzo says 67, Udogie, Maddison, and Son to go. Yeah, I think you could get 80 plus points there from those 3. So it should be a green arrow there, regardless. How's your week so far? Good overall, FPL wise. Bang average, I have to say. It's a bit unfortunate, but a bang average week. And once I saw Salah netting that second goal against Everton, I just had that feeling, really, that it wasn't going to be a great week. Same says 77 points with Son, Maddison, Perro, and Leno left. Well, you definitely will get 80 plus points. And yeah, it should be a green arrow, so all good. 11 home wins in a row for Villa. Absolutely insane run coming through. Yep, and it still continues up until game week 15. That's when it starts to turn for the worse. Of course, they do face Tottenham in game week 13, but they do have Bournemouth straight after that. So I'd say the fixture run continues up until game week 14. That's the last good fixture against Bournemouth. Good evening, Dylan. In game week 10, would you play Alvarez or Bowen? Based on the fixture, it has to be Bowen. Also out of position, potentially as a midfielder. So yeah, I'd go for Jared Bowen there. Singh says, Villa fans, what do you think about Matty Cash's performance? Yeah, I want to see what people say about that. Matty Cash has a lot of attacking potential, but he can be very frustrating as well. I don't think I've ever got a return from Matty Cash, if I'm not mistaken. Not a big one. All the big returns he's had, I've never gone for him. Thank you, Dave, and I can understand why. Better tunes than FPL performances for me, at least. Yeah, I just love the tune myself. Sometimes just jam to it before we start. Greetings, everyone. 92 points to go. Udogie to go. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say 100 points is possible, but I'd say 96 to 98 is definitely on the cards. Had Bowen, Watkins, and Cash in the game. The RB bench on 80 with Maddison and Udogie to play. Another good score. Probably, you'd be aiming for 90 plus, and you'd be very happy with that as well. And yeah, having Watkins and Bowen is probably the ideal kind of takeaway from this game, unless you had Douglas Luiz. And look, he's got 7 goals in his last 6 home games, Douglas Luiz, but still wouldn't go from an FPL, to be honest. Top 10k, press 1 top 100k, press 2 top 1 million, 3 any lower 4. Oh, fair enough. Okay, I see what you're doing there. From 1.3 million rank to 133k, that's a really good rank rise. I'm looking for that sort of week. It's yet to happen for me so far. Last week was decent, 1 million rank rise, but not as good as what you're talking about, where you're going from a decent position to a very good one. Welcome, Zaid. All good. What about you? Let's see what else we have. Mbeumo, Bowen, Maddison to Bowen, James Ward-Prowse, Saka. Mbeumo, Maddison to Matoma, Saka. Which one would you go for? I'm not sure about the first set of transfers you're talking about, because he said Bowen to Bowen. But I would go for the last set of transfers, I think. Mbeumo, Maddison to Matoma and Saka. That's my favourite. I wouldn't say he's a differential captain, but yeah, it would have been a very good rank rise, of course. His effective ownership wasn't extremely high. I don't think he was a differential, though. He was probably the second most captain, if I'm not mistaken. I had Gordon and Bowen instead of Diaby, and James Ward-Prowse and Salah captain. Yeah, that's literally the ideal way to do it. And I wish I had Gordon instead of James Ward-Prowse. That's a mistake that I made, I think, on the wild card. And yeah, just James Ward-Prowse playing in a deeper role was very, very costly. As for Jared Bowen over Diaby, I think, yeah, obviously it's paid off so far. Game week 10 is where it could swing Diaby's way, but ultimately Bowen is the better long-term pick. Abu says, I took a minus 44 hits in this season so far, but still the same point as you. I mean, that's really good on your part to take that many hits and, not do too badly, but I think that's just more how badly I'm doing, if anything. Best game week in a while, 70 points, still have Son and Romero. I wish I captained Salah, but you can't get everything right. And look, last week you would have captained Son. Obviously blanked in the early kickoff, facing Luton Town away. And now with Salah, very difficult Merseyside derby. And you have to say, luck was a bit in Liverpool's favour this time round with the decisions, the red card, the penalty. I think it was a penalty, by the way. But there was a lot of things that went against Everton. Konate should have been sent off. And I think all of that did play a part in Salah's haul. 78 points with triple Spurs to go. I think 90 plus is definitely achievable. Another 68 here with the same trio of a Doggy, Son and Maddison to play. Chatsport says if Bruno was in that City team, he would be a season keeper. Well, he's a really good chance creator. And look, he can be frustrating, not the best on the ball. I don't think he would be in that Man City team in terms of ball retention. I don't think he has those, I want to say those qualities, but he's not to the same level as Bernardo Silva and the others. But of course, I see what you're saying there. In terms of output, he would be incredible. Top 200 so far this week, huge dub. That's, I mean, that's more than good. Honestly, Dylan, getting rid of Haaland, in my opinion, would have been so many benefits in investment, reinvestment. True, so far, I think those that have gone without Haaland on the wild card have done well, but there's still Bournemouth at home next in Game Week 11. And I also think getting to Haaland back, of course, it's possible, but it's still going to be slightly difficult for some people. And it's all about timing. There could be 1 week where it all goes wrong for those non-Haaland owners. I remember when I discussed this possibility in my team selection video and I said I might go without Haaland. Literally everyone in the comment section is saying, rest in peace, your season's over. And look, you can do well without Haaland. I keep on saying it, but I still think in the long term, having Haaland is the play. I've got 8 points so far. Yeah, a lot of people, I think, with 60 plus points and then either a double or triple up in Spurs. I think Son and Borro, probably the 2 best Spurs assets to have in Game Week 9. Put Salah's captain, and I'm on 78. Roll the same team as last week. Might get Gabriel. Yeah, look, I even said this last week with Gabriel. I think he's a good long-term option. I would recommend him as a defender. But just because he's facing Sheffield United in Game Week 10, that doesn't mean a clean sheet, because Arsenal love to gift goals, as you saw yesterday, and especially in home matches as well. Thoughts on Diaby? Yeah, he hasn't been great. The underlying numbers aren't particularly good either. I think he ranks in the top 40 or 50 for midfielders, but he's still a good option. I think Luton Town's a great fixture for him. He will produce some returns over the next couple of weeks, but, you know, is he as good as Bowen and other assets? Possibly not, but I wouldn't sell Diaby at this moment in time. Yeah, I mean, perhaps. I see what you mean. He's on penalties, and look, he has an eye for goal. He can score from outside the box, but I'm still not too sure about that, to be honest. A Doggy Son, yeah. Should I sell Haaland? No, I wouldn't sell him. Look, there's always going to be this big debate, but yeah, he faces Man United next. It could be a bit of a cagey game. Haaland might blank, but then he faces Bournemouth, where I think he scores a brace or a hat-trick, to be honest. 84 after bonus points with Son and a Doggy to play. Thoughts? I mean, it's good. I mean, I don't know what more to kind of comment on that there, but Son and a Doggy, I think, will give you at least 6+ points between them. So you're looking at 90+, and that should be a great green arrow. I'm not sure exactly what rank you are, but no matter what, it should be a green arrow. Hello, would really appreciate if you'd rate my team. Not sure if I'd be able to do it on stream, to be honest. In Boomer for Matoma or Simicast for Dean are the transfers I'm looking at. Kind of just basing it off what you're saying there. My favourite transfer would be in Boomer for Matoma. I think that would be my favourite transfer. Ad says, I've got 2 free transfers, but I want to keep Solanke against Burnley. Yeah, fair enough. Who would you replace Almiron with? I only have 6.7 million in the bank. You could do a similar, you know, or a like-for-like switch to Gordon. If not, you've got Neto and Hwang Hee-chan, but I wouldn't bring them in this week. So, yeah, if it's not Gordon, I'd look at Diaby still against Luton. 82 points for Curry, Doggy and Maddison to play. Yeah, I think a clean sheet is possible against Fulham, but I think it's the attackers that will really come to light, and perhaps the likes of Pedro Porro with the attacking potential too. Trippier's hurt in my rank, same here. I did not want him on wildcard 2 weeks ago. To be honest, I wanted him, but it was also about prioritising, and I wanted Haaland, Son, Salah over him. I think my mistake was going for Son over Trippier. I could have gone, instead of Son, I could have gone for Gordon and then gone for Trippier in the defence. That's something I should have done perhaps, but yeah, in terms of Salah or Haaland over Trippier, I don't regret that so much, and I think Salah is clearly the best asset at the moment. I wanted Stupinian on my Game Week 10 wildcard. Yeah, that's the problem though. So just wait for further updates, and it could be a similar situation to Botman just this week where, oh yeah, he's coming back, or, you know, the international break has been kind to him, and then after the game, you find out he's benched, and then Eddie Howe says he's not going to be back until a couple of weeks' time. So you've got to take what these managers say with a pinch of salt. They sometimes try to play mind games and get an advantage over the opponent, but what we saw from a few weeks ago is that Stupinian should be back by Game Week 10 or 11, so let's wait and see. Sell Haaland, Bruno Fernandes and Son for Watkins, Salah and Diaby. I'd probably say yes, but there's always a risk with selling Haaland, you know that. And Heung-min Son has a good record against Crystal Palace, which I mentioned earlier, but that trio you're getting in is definitely superior at the moment. Son or Maddison, who should I keep? I'd rather keep Maddison just because of price, and you could do Son to Saka, but of course it's all team dependent. If you've got a lot of money in the bank, then yeah, Son is marginally better than Maddison at the moment, but you also have to take into account value. 52, another red arrow after a green arrow wild card last week. To be fair though, if you have 2 or 3 Spurs players, that red arrow could turn into a green one, so I wouldn't be too worried about that anyway. Newcastle fixtures turn pretty quickly. Yeah, that is true. That is really, really true. Do you think Trippier is the best option? I still think he's the best Newcastle option, no doubt about it. After it's probably Burn. They're my favourite too. Lascelles is a really good enabler. A decent pick on my wild card. It's just a shame I didn't play him. And actually, I think the day before the deadline, Lascelles was in my starting 11. But then the more I thought about it, I thought Botman would be in the starting 11. And I made a mistake there. And that 50-50 call went against me as well. So, yeah, I think with the Newcastle assets, Trippier first, Burn second. And at the moment, Lascelles is definitely up there. Is Saka a must? Not a must, but he's one of the best assets in the game. Look at his consistency. He played poorly yesterday in the first half, fixed up in the second, and he got an assist in the end. So Saka's just a great option. Thank you, Sudindra. Thoughts on having Douglas Luiz over Diaby? Nah, no, not a chance for me. Not considering the next few. I know that obviously, look, Douglas Luiz has been in better form than Diaby, but I still think Diaby is... How do I put this? I think the fixtures coming up will suit him more than the Douglas Luiz. But of course, I could be wrong, and maybe I'm being a bit bullish, but I'd still go for Diaby. Yeah, I think, look, you have to consider Douglas Luiz an option, of course, but would I go from over Diaby? I still don't think so. And maybe I'm being too stubborn, but nah. I think the way I'd rank Aston Villa assets is Watkins first, probably Diaby second, Cash third, and yeah, Douglas Luiz is definitely in the contention for the top 3 assets. Saka and Maddison or Saka and Odegaard? Saka and Maddison. I think Odegaard's very explosive, but a bit inconsistent. Hi Dylan, who would you captain in Game Week 10? Probably Salah, but I can just tell once a lot of people captain him, he's facing Nottingham Forest at home. It would not surprise me if he blanked, and then the likes of Haaland scores a brace against United and stuff like that. It's very difficult to nail down the captaincy, I think, this season. J War says 72 points with a doggy, Maddison and Son still to play. Yeah, 80 plus should be possible. Watkins and Diaby or Watkins and Mitoma. In the short term, it would be the double up in Aston Villa, but long term, I think Mitoma, yeah, with the fixtures in mind up until Game Week 16, they are very good. But the reason why I'd stick to Diaby is the rotation for Brighton. What are your expectations for Triple Spurs this week? Well, my prediction the other day for this game was 3-1 Tottenham. So, yeah, I'd say an attacking contribution between Son and Maddison at the very least. And then, yeah, I think that would be decent and it would be enough for a green arrow there. Lucky last minute Isak to Watkins based on your tips on his fitness. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Isak briefly. It looked like he wasn't going to make it, basically. And it's what Eddie Howe said in his press conference, but I do appreciate that. And obviously, Watkins has some better fixtures to come still. Saka, Maddison, yeah, we've covered that. Let's see what else we have. I'm fearing not having Son for tomorrow's game. I don't know. Yeah, Fulham is a great fixture for him. He could score 1 or 2 goals, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think in your situation, I'd be in the exact same position, but having Son, I'm actually not that confident. Like, I don't have that, you know, concrete belief that he's going to do well. So let's wait and see. Maybe it's kind of owner's bias. Thank you, Success. I appreciate it. Keep on smashing the like button if you are watching, and let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes. It'd be massively appreciated, and it costs nothing. 2 free transfers, Saliba and Kabore to Tsimikas and Gabriel, or Maddison and Lascelles to Palmer and Trippier. My favourite would be Tsimikas and Gabriel in for Saliba and Kabore. I think that's the best set of transfers for you. The second Salah goal killed me, 7-point swing. Yeah, I think so as well. Even though I captain him, even though I have him, not captain him, I think was a bit of a how do I say, it's bittersweet maybe. Yeah, I think that's the way to describe it for me. 4 goals scored by Villa and blank Diaby. Yeah, no, it's just the worst kind of blank really. When you've got a team scoring 4+ goals and your player isn't involved at all. Darwin, the only problem in my team. Already have Watkins and Alvarez. What are the best forwards? Well, to be honest, you already have the 2 best forwards besides Haaland. And Darwin is a decent option, probably in the top 5. He could start next week, and I think he will. So I wouldn't sell Darwin ahead of Nottingham Forest at home, unless you're bringing in Haaland, which I don't think you will. Pedro for bench and play if needed? Nah. I just keep Darwin for now, and then in the future, you can just downgrade to a cheaper forward. It could even be Archer, and then use those funds to upgrade your midfield and perhaps get Saka or maybe someone you're missing in the midfield there as well. Palmer, Soucek, Adingra, Hee-Chan. Yeah, that's a great question. I do like Palmer. He was good yesterday. He should have done better, though, with some of the chances he had from open play. And also, in my opinion, a bit lucky to stay on the pitch, but, you know, we'll move on. I think my favourites would be, with fixtures in mind as well, I think it would be, yeah, Palmer first, Hwang Hee-chan second, Soucek third, and Adingra fourth. I do like Adingra. I think he has a lot of potential, but as an FPL asset, rotation, that is the biggest issue for me. I know the fixtures are great, but yeah, it's between Adingra and Soucek for third place. Maybe I'd put Adingra ahead of Soucek, but ultimately the top two for me are Palmer and Hwang Hee-chan. Captain Haaland over Salah. Yeah, same here, Dave. Same here. Glad I still have him at least. Yeah, I mean, there's some people who didn't have him or Trippier, and they would have been struggling a lot this week. But a lot of us will have that one player that kind of cost us. It could be Watkins, Trippier, Salah, etc. Saka, Maddison. Yeah, you've asked that question a lot of times. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to go for that again. Is Diaby worth buying on the wild card? Tricky one, because after scoring 4 goals, Aston Villa scoring 4 and him not being involved, it is very, very annoying for owners. And for those that haven't, got him yet, you maybe don't have that same, I don't know, perspective. But yeah, I still think he's worth buying on the wild card, but he's a short-term punt up until Game Week 15, really. And that's when you'd sell him. 92 points for Son and Pedro still to play. Yeah, I think 100 plus is, I wouldn't say definite, but it's definitely possible. Evening all, thoughts on Son, James or Prowse, Bayer out for Saka, Matoma and Costa Simicas, BR -4 at 100k rank. Yeah, I think that's completely fine, to be honest, but like I said earlier, Son has a good record against Crystal Palace. He can haul in that game, but Saka is a great alternative. You're also upgrading the other 2 players, in my opinion. James or Prowse does have some great fixtures coming up, but if he's playing so deep, you're just really relying on free kicks and set pieces, so it's not looking too good there. And the other one is a certain upgrade there in Costa Simicas. Any ideas for Maddison replacements next week? I don't think you need to sell Maddison and Son. I think you can keep a Spurs asset in the future, but if you were to get rid of Maddison, I think Bowen is the one. Yeah, and I said this before the deadline. Check out the deadline stream. I said the same thing. He scored today. I think he's going to get a bonus point too. Thoughts on Palmer? Same as last week. Poor fixtures. He is on penalties though, and that can swing things his way. He is in great form and he can play down the middle, on the wings, and still do a good job. So he is the best Chelsea asset right now. But would he be a priority for me? Not really. And with those fixtures, I think I would still look elsewhere and bring him in when Chelsea's fixtures are better. And then Lee also asked the same thing. I'm just going to repeat that, to be honest, with Cole Palmer. Really good enabler if you want a cheap midfielder, and we're talking about 5.5 and below. Then yeah, Palmer's my favourite, but I still prefer Gordon for a little bit more than that. Pedro Neto, Hwang Hee-chan, potentially. I think Pedro Neto will be my favourite over Cole Palmer. Then it'd be Hwang Hee-chan just behind the Englishman. But yeah, overall, it's all about your preference, your team structure, what you're trying to build. And I still would rather have 5, 6, possibly 7 midfielders ahead of Cole Palmer. Worth a free hit when City versus Bournemouth? I mean, not a bad shout, to be honest. I tend to use the free hit for a blank or double game week. That's when it tends to be the most effective. But yeah, it's not a bad shout. If you have no City players and, it's a struggle for you to get 2 or 3, you could consider it. But if that's really the only thing you gain, then it is a bit of a tricky one, to be honest. Twister Parky says, hey, Dylan. Yeah, good to see you. What first team should be brought in next week? Not sure what you mean by that. In terms of teams to target from next week onwards, I think West Ham still and Aston Villa. I think those are the two teams to really target from Game Week 10 onwards. Arsenal as well, with that Sheffield United fixture, but they do face Newcastle straight after. Yeah, Twisted Parky, you are almost guaranteed, I'd say, for 100 plus points. Matoma or Diaby or Gordon, rate them, please. At the moment, Gordon looks the best, but I'm looking at fixtures too. And I would say over the next 4 to 5 game weeks, it would be Diaby first, Matoma second, and Gordon third. But it's so difficult to rank them, to be honest. It kind of changes week on week. Gordon faces Wolves next, but afterwards the fixtures are quite tough. Arsenal in game week 11, for example, but Gordon is so consistent, and that's what I like about him. The only issue I have with him is the yellow cards. Thoughts on a 3-4-3 with Haaland, Watkins, Alvarez? That is the best front three possible. I don't mind it at all. So yeah, if you are to go for that structure, 3-4-3, completely fine, as long as your 4 midfielders are solid and that front three is as good as anything. 65 of 3 Spurs left. Decent, I'd say. It should be a green arrow. Activated wildcard, bought in players who might go up in price. That is the way to go. I own Haaland, Fernandes, Richarlison. Who should go first? I mean, to be honest, I would say Richarlison, but yeah, it's probably just Richarlison. The thing is, though, United do face City, and I think City will still win that game. And Fernandes and Haaland, not a big fan of that double up, to be honest. Haaland's a good striker, a lot of potential. Fernandes is a great creator, but just not working for them in FPL. Dare to refuse Haaland? Yeah, but like I said, there will be a time, I think, where it does end pretty badly for those non-Haaland players or owners. But let's wait and see, of course, how it all turns out. I sold Haaland for Trippier, Salah and Watkins, and it definitely paid off. Yeah, like I just said to Vincent once again, it probably has paid off now, and it could as well in Game Week 10. I think it will. But in Game Week 11 onwards, that's where things can start to change. 67 with a doggy and Maddison to play. Thanks for Neto, though, returned an assist. He did get yellow, but 4 points is better than 2 in the case of Ward-Prowse for me, so I definitely would rather have him. Why was Howe hiding Botman injury? He's not going to impact their way of playing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's just a suggestion I made earlier, but it's just maybe a way of targeting Botman. I honestly have no idea why he would do that, but I'm just saying it's kind of a pattern with a lot of Premier League managers where they say, oh, this player is close to returning, like Arteta with Saka, and in the end, he doesn't play. What do you think of Trippier on the wildcard Game Week 10? Pretty standard, to be honest. I mean, Trippier was always discussed quite heavily in all my wildcard drafts. I just decided to go without him because Son had Luton Town when I wildcarded. Haaland had some really good fixtures coming up, like Brighton, which he did well in. And of course, he's got Bournemouth very soon. Salah is Salah, and he's in great form, so consistent. And he's returned in every single game this season. Tottenham's the only exception, and we all know about that goal disallowed. So it's all about prioritising. But of course, Trippier's a great option. Bear in mind, though, the fixtures aren't that great in the long term, or maybe not long term, that's maybe the wrong way to say it. Over the next 5, it's not a great set of fixtures there for Newcastle. Hey, Dylan Gordon. I think he's my favourite 5.7 midfielder and below. And I was so close to getting him, I think, for Ward-Prowse, but in the end, I wanted to roll and have 2 free transfers for Game Week 10. Douglas Luiz on my watch list. Yeah, he's obviously going to have a lot of love now. Really good performance overall and a brace. 63 with Porro, Son and Maddison to play. Yeah, that's decent. 70 plus should be the way for you. Quite annoyed that I didn't captain Salah, but 64 points this week with Son and a doggy. Standard. I mean, it's pretty good, all things considered. Haaland captain isn't the worst. At least you didn't captain, I don't know, I'm trying to think of someone pretty poor. Yeah, to be honest, most of the good options this week have done well. Let's see what Son does tomorrow. 65 points, 3.3 million to 2.6 million. Son captain, Maddison, Pedro Porro. Yeah, yes, tomorrow could be a fantastic swing for you. So good luck with that. And you could literally enter, it would not surprise me if you enter the top 2 million and were closer to 1 million by the end of the game week. Diaby out, Douglas in, doesn't make any change. I wouldn't do that personally. And the only thing that Douglas Luiz has over him for me is the penalties. I don't think I'd do that switch personally. Look, if you want to do it, go ahead. I'm seeing a lot of love for Douglas Luiz, but yeah, I wouldn't get rid of Diaby personally. Yo, Dylan had a blunder this week, but we move. Would you start Gabriel over Porro, Son or Maddison? As I think he's not worth it over Saka, Salah, Trippier, Cash or Diaby. Yeah, I agree. It would be over Porro. The only thing is that Crystal Palace, they look a bit toothless up front right now with all the injuries, and Spurs have a good record against Crystal Palace in recent years, but I would prioritise Son and Maddison over Porro in Game Week 10. Mr. Iceman says 59 points with Son and Porro still remaining. Your predictions for the race tonight? I still think Verstappen will win, and to be honest, I haven't been able to, watch everything, so I didn't see the sprint yesterday. I was watching the football and the rugby, and also the day before that, I didn't watch qualifying and all that jazz. So, yeah, I'd say Verstappen will win. That's just my prediction, very simple. As for 59 points for Son and Porro, pretty decent. I think, 65 plus points, and should be a green arrow for you there, Mr. Iceman. And of course, I know I'm a bit far behind. There are a lot of questions and comments coming in, but trying to get through every single team. Snipe Master YouTube, I think it is, says, hi Dylan, my team, Turner, Cash, Adogi, Gabriel, Saka, Salah, Diaby, Gordon, Haaland, Alvarez, bench, Areola, Botman, Art, Chikabore. As I said last week as well, heading into Game Week 9, even though I thought Botman would start, I would sell him just because he's a bit of a problem, and he's now going to be out until the 11th of November at the very least. So Botman out to Tsimikas is a very simple move for you. And in terms of other moves, I don't think you have any big priorities. Of course, you don't have Trippier. If you can find a way to get him in, that would be ideal. But I'm not sure you have the funds in order to do that. So Botman to Tsimikas is a very simple move for you. Is Fati or Kudus punt worth it? I like Kudus, and even Fati's done relatively well for Brighton since coming in. But he is mainly on the bench, and that's what I don't like about Fati. And of course, Kudus is the same thing. He's not starting games at the moment, but I think with this fixture run coming up, I think Kudus could get some games. He could come in for Soucek as an example. So, yeah, I think Kudus would be my slight preference there. Best Arsenal defender for Game Week 10 wildcard. Still Gabriel for me. Then it would be Saliba, then Ben White. And I know you said budget isn't no issue, and you could argue that White will get the most points of the three. But I still think 5.6 million is a bit too steep when you can get Gabriel for literally 0.9 million less. And I don't see that big of a difference in points to justify the extra 0.9 million. I'm on 3-4-3 with Haaland, Watkins, Alvarez. Have money in the bank to do Alvarez to Saka. We have 2 free transfers. Should I keep Alvarez or sell? I think that is. Yeah, I think I would make that switch. It's not priority, and Alvarez does face Bournemouth in Gameweek 11, so that could be I want to say a mistake, but you could regret it by that time. But I think in the long term, Saka should outscore Alvarez up until Gameweek 16 at the very least, and I would make the switch. Also, I'm keeping Alvarez, don't mind it, as I just said, to Apex, because he does face Bournemouth in Gameweek 11, and Alvarez has been a better player this season than Haaland for Man City. Diaby or Mitoma, I'd still prioritise Diaby as a short-term punt up until Gameweek 15, really. Mitoma's good fixtures until Gameweek 16, but there is the Europa League as well to think about, and there could be rotation there between Mitoma and Fati, and ultimately I wouldn't trust either of them to get a consistent run of starts. I think Mitoma will probably start 4, maybe 5 of the next 6, whilst with Diaby, you'd probably expect him to start all 6, and with some of the fixtures coming up like Luton Town, I'd probably go for Diaby still. Hold, Trippier or sell? I'd still hold him for Wolves, at least. You could maybe look to sell against Arsenal, but I think Trippier's fixture-proof, to be honest, and I'd probably keep him for the time being, up until a point where, you know, the fixtures are bad, and of course you want to be ahead of the curve, but what I mean by that is, you know, with Trippier, if you've got a really good squad overall, and you don't really need to make another transfer, and it's not like you need funds, then why sell Trippier? He's the best defender in the game. I still think he'll tick along nicely, and when you look at it, unless you need the extra 2 million or something like that, why sell him? First season playing FPL, how important is the bench? Managed to fit Haaland, Salah, Son, Saka, Watkins and Alvarez, but my bench is absolutely horrendous. Well, ideally you'd have one decent bench player, and I always say this, but the reason why I didn't do what you just said, in terms of having all those key assets at the same time, is because it meant my 11th player would be relatively weak. So instead of Alvarez for me, it was Trippier, but it meant having Anderson from Newcastle in my starting 11. But as long as you have a good 11, that's the most important thing. And ideally, you'd have one decent asset on your bench, but it's not absolutely essential. It's just a nice comfort blanket to have in certain game weeks. Twisted Parky says, I stayed up until 3 AM last night working out if I should bring in Tsimikas. They missed the rise. Will he continue to play? Yeah, I think he will. He didn't play particularly well against Everton, but he should start most games. But as I said before the deadline, there could be the possibility of Endo or Joe Gomez playing as the left back. It would not surprise me. It could be Tsimikas playing in the Europa League in 1 week, and then a few days later, they have a game against Nottingham Forest, and then he could be benched. It would not surprise me, but Tsimikas should start most games in the next couple of months, and he should do a good job. There's quite a few similarities among our team. The only difference will be the captain pick. Gameweek 10... Well, in Gameweek 10, Salah is the clear standout over Haaland regardless, and I said this last week and the week before, because Haaland is away to Man United, but, you know, it's not that simple in terms of fixtures, early kickoffs and stuff like that. There's always a few things that, you know, play a part. It could be a red card to a player, it could be a penalty. All these things can play a part in swinging things towards one captain over the other, but on paper, Salah is the clear winner there. What to do with Man United assets? I'd sell ideally. I know they won 2-1 yesterday, but it's against Sheffield United, and I don't trust them in the long term anyway. I know they've got some good fixtures after City, but I'd sell the vast majority of them, at the very least, one maximum going forwards for me. How's it going? All good, Tezza. What about you? Would you do Haaland and Diaby to Watkins and Gordon from -4? Yeah, I would. As much as I like Diaby, I think Watkins is an upgrade, and you're also getting Gordon with very good long-term fixtures, despite the immediate short-term games not being that great. So yeah, I would do it. And who would he start over? Ooh, probably Alvarez, I think. Tsimikas for a doggy and keep cash, burn Trippier and Lamptey because he's cheap. Yeah, that's completely fine. And in the short term, you could also do Lamptey to Lascelles until Botman comes back, of course. Saka and Mbeumo or Maddison and Mitoma, or Maddison and Mbeumo for Gameweek 10. I think I answered your question earlier, Abu. My overall preference, as much as I like Saka, I think he's the best asset you said. As a duo, my favourite, yeah, I think it would be Maddison and Mitoma. What do you think about Tsimikas? Same as I said yesterday, decent cheap option. He might not start every single game with Robertson out, but I think he'll start the vast majority. And the minutes could be a concern. I think those that had Tsimikas for Game Week 9 were very fortunate that he wasn't subbed out just a few seconds beforehand and gets the 1-pointer. But you need that luck sometimes with these defenders. Didn't play particularly well yesterday, but I think he'll still start most games there for Liverpool. Hey mate, I want to do Foden to Saka, and I have the exact money to now. When do you think Foden will drop in price and Saka will rise? I think with Saka, we can have a quick look now at a price rise website. So if we take a look at Saka, he's not really anywhere close to a price rise here at the moment. It's going to take a few days, I think, at the very least. In terms of Phil Foden, this could be the issue. He is almost at 100%, minus 100% in terms of going down in price. So I'd say in the next couple of days, there is a possibility that Foden does go down. So look, sometimes it is a bit random, and these sites are very accurate, but sometimes FPL just do some random price rises and falls, and we're just thinking, where did that come from? So I can't guarantee you this, but based on what I'm seeing here from this website, Foden could go down in price by the Wednesday, and as for Saka, he could go up in price by, I'd say, the Friday, or basically when the deadline passes and we head into Game Week 11 afterwards. So yeah, I think the main concern isn't Saka going up in price, it would be Foden going down, and it could happen very soon. So take that with a pinch of salt. If you want to make the moves now, I can understand why. Ideally, you'd wait a little bit longer though, until the Champions League games have taken place. Yeah, like I said a few days ago, the aim will be to do a Game Week 10 wildcard video, but it might be a bit later in the week because tomorrow there's going to be a UCL Fantasy team selection video. I also uploaded the best wildcard team earlier today for Matchday 3, and yesterday there was the Limitless team as well. I think it was all on the Friday. I can't even, I've lost track of the days, to be honest. It might have been a Thursday. So there's a lot of content headed your way. I'm trying to do a trans tips video for Game Week 10, also the best wildcard team and the team selection, but all of that might happen later in the week from Wednesday onwards. Ted says 86, yeah, good stuff, and also that triple up could even help you reach 100 points this week. Mitoma to Diaby, or find the funds to go up to Bowen. I'd personally rather go up to Bowen, if possible. So keep Mitoma for Fulham, and then try to go up to Bowen when possible. In Boomer trolling, yeah, but it's kind of similar to Sterling a few weeks ago against Burnley. The fixture is there, of course, and if I didn't wildcard that week, I would have kept Sterling, and it's the same with Mbumo this week. So if I wildcarded in Game Week 9, I wouldn't have had Mbumo, but it's all kind of just a matter of timing and stuff like that. And I actually talked about Mbumo in my transfer tips. I said he's a hold for Game Week 9, and then I'd sell him in Game Week 10. Thank you to Stupaki, very much appreciate. As he says, smash the like button, it costs nothing. I'm in the top 265k. Yeah, I'd be glad with that as well, Lucas. The main debate is whether I sell Haaland to get Son and Trippier on a wild card. For Trippier, yes, not necessarily for Heung-min Son. I'd rather have Haaland in the long term compared to Son. And Trippier is a great option, but I'd still rather have Haaland, I think, just about. That's just my personal take on it. I see the appeal for it. If it's just Alvarez can match Haaland, yeah. And he is doing that right now. Very, very close to him, only 6 points away from Haaland so far this season. I think there will be a gap at some point forming, but for the time being, Alvarez is doing really well. So that's what kind of plays into this narrative of going without Haaland. Who should I captain in Game Week 10? Probably just captain whoever I don't captain. My captaincy record isn't particularly great this season, but Salah is the best on paper. Other alternatives include Saka, Heung-min Son. I don't think I'd captain Haaland away to Man United this week, but I wouldn't rule him out definitively. I just think the game will be a bit tighter. It could be a bit lower scoring, maybe a 2-1 Man City. And yeah, Haaland might score a goal, but the other players I mentioned have a much higher ceiling on paper. Should I keep Son or Maddison or both on the wild card? Completely up to you. I think Son is a slightly better option than Maddison, but with value taken into account and the moves you could make by selling Son, I'd probably sell him instead. R says 54 free Spurs left. Good luck, mate. Hopefully you do well, even though I'm not necessarily hoping for Spurs to do well there necessarily. If I go through a few different screens quickly, by the way, in terms of the FDR, Arsenal are now top over the next 6 game weeks. Crystal Palace, Brighton, Burnley and Liverpool make up the top 5, and Aston Villa went from top to 7th now. In terms of the bottom 5, we've got Chelsea, Luton Town, Man City, Everton and Brentford. Man United are also right down there with Spurs. And in terms of predicted points, Haaland is top against Man United away. Salah is second. Saka, Martinelli and Watkins complete the top 5. And we've got Son, Tsimikas, Diaby and Mitoma in the top 10. I'm not so sure about Tsimikas being that high up, but he is a good option. And Martinelli could be a good shout. I'm not sure I'd captain him, though, in Game Week 10. I think the top 3 is fairly, it's a good set of players there for the captaincy, but I'd probably rank Salah and Saka ahead of Haaland this week. In terms of another thing I want to show you, it's the highest captain players in Gameweek 9. Haaland had 54% in the top 10k. Salah was second with 26%. So, yeah, you would have got a massive rise by captaining Salah, but it wasn't the biggest differential captain, so to speak. Son, Maddison and Watkins were in the top 5 as well. So a very interesting complexion here with the captaincy. And finally, we're getting a few decisions to make in terms of the armband, not just permanent captain Erling Haaland at the moment. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you, I think. Maybe draft pound as well. These are some of the suggested transfers they're making. Son to Odegaard, I don't agree with that, to be honest. Anderson to White is not a bad shout either. But yeah, I'm going to have to think about these, of course. I think just a few minutes ago, the suggestion was to... I don't remember... Yeah, I think it was something like Son to Gordon and then bringing Trippier in for Joachim Anderson. That's a really good set of transfers, actually, and I wouldn't actually mind that at all. But the Arsenal players are getting a lot of love in these algorithms, and rightly so. They are top of the FDR for the next 6 game weeks, and there are some great fixtures coming up, especially in the next 3. So we're going back to my team, which I discussed very briefly. Very disappointing from Ward Prowse. He is a big concern for me in a deeper role. Matty Cash, not particularly impressive. Turner, very disappointing towards the end. Dan Burn, you know, solid, nothing spectacular, but dependable, reliable. Salah, just doing what Salah does. Erling Haaland getting a goal, breaking that goal drought, and Ollie Watkins will be with 11 points by the end, with 2 bonus points and a goal and assist to wrap off a comprehensive victory against West Ham. But yeah, apart from that, I've got a triple up in Spurs tomorrow, so my red arrow from around, 100k places, that should swing the other way. I should get a green arrow by the end of tomorrow, but it's still not enough. It's been a poor start to the season in FPL and UCL Fantasy, and it will be a great learning curve, I think, for me to improve in the future, and hopefully as well, because ultimately you do need some luck to fall your way. That's what I'll be counting on in the next couple of weeks as well. So let's get back to your questions as well. We've got still quite a lot to go through, and a lot of different scores that are popping about as well. Dan the Man says, play Burn and Haaland, sell Son and Darwin, or play Saka and Mitoma, sell Son and Maddison. My preference would be to play Saka and Mitoma and sell Son and Maddison, but it's not a priority to sell all your Spurs assets all of a sudden. Yeah, Barnacle, good stuff. Hopefully you can get to 60 plus points. I think Son captain could be a great differential there for you. Brandon says, Saka, Bowen, Mitoma. Who's first, second and third next week? Well, for me, it's probably the way you said it. Saka, Bowen and Mitoma, that's my favourites. Saka's just so consistent. He might not have the best ceiling, but he is generally so consistent, and it'd surprise you when he does blank. 59 with 2 Spurs players left, and Saliba's 1 point from the bench. Yeah, so 60 with 2 Spurs players left. Yeah, could be a decent end to the week for you. 70 with Maddison and Potter to go. Good stuff. Finally a good week. Tears in my eyes. Yeah, I can relate to that. Even though I've only had 2 good game weeks so far this season, I'd say. I think game week 1 was by far my best. Ever since, it's been downhill. Just a Parky says, my dad's team, I help. Start with Chris Wood and no Haaland. Yeah. I remember someone yesterday saying, I'm going to have Chris Wood on the free hit. And I said I wouldn't do it. And that's why sometimes you shouldn't listen to me. I'm just giving my opinion. And Chris Wood in the end scores a brace. Dylan, any thoughts on player prices next year for FPL? Mate, I'm struggling to wrap my head around this year's FPL. I don't want to think about next season just yet, but Jared Bowen probably is going to go up in price to 8 million again. Haaland could go down a little bit, maybe to 13.5 million. Salah will probably be 13 million as well. Of course, look, it's all speculative. There's a long way to go, and things can definitely change. It's only 9 game weeks in. Success says, I've got Trippier, Doggy, Cash, Simicast, and Botman. Yeah, the one to sell is Botman. You can do Botman to Lascelles as a short-term punt, but my recommendation would be Botman to Gabriel. Very simple. Yes, the answer is yes. Snipe Master, YouTube, I did go through your team, so I have covered that. Always thought Wood being on the bench was strange. To be honest, though, it is Awini starting ahead of him, and now because he's injured, it makes sense that Chris Wood is back in the team. Who do you say are the best 5 defenders to own right now? Trippier, Burn, Gabriel, Simicast, and... the 5th one's a bit more difficult, but maybe you could stick with a Pedro Porro still. Joachim Anderson's fine. So, yeah, one of those options is good. Even a Gay as a cheap enabler. But, yeah, the top 4, I think, is quite easy to list off. Been looking at Douglas Luiz for about 5 weeks. Think he is overperforming, though. Yeah, the thing with Douglas Luiz, and Arsenal are looking at him for several years now, he does have some box-to-box qualities, and look, he's a good all-round midfielder. He's got good technique. He's really good in terms of long-distance shots. He's a great penalty taker too. But I'm still not fully convinced by him in FPL. And look, in home matches, of course, like Luton Town coming up, I think he can haul really well. But away from home, it's a bit different, and I'm still not a big fan of him in the long term. Can't afford to get Salah in for Gameweek 10 captain, Haaland, Watkins or Saka. My gut feeling would be Watkins, then Saka, and Haaland would be last. F1 has got so boring. To be honest, though, it was the same with Hamilton, you know, when he was dominating from, 2014 to 2020. Only one decent year, you could argue, against Rosberg in 2016. Before that, you had Sebastian Vettel winning 4 in a row. And yeah, there were 2 good seasons there, 2010 and 2012. But the other 2 years were pure domination. So F1 has a history of one driver and team dominating. So it's just the way it goes. Hope Son can make 10 plus points too. Yeah, it'd be good for my rank, but honestly, if he blanked, I wouldn't be too fussed, to be honest. Maybe a bit biased there. Hi, Dylan. Massive green arrow for me this week. Good to hear. Still got Son and Bodrot to play. First big green arrow in a long time. That's great to hear, of course. It's always good to see, you know, especially if someone's kind of struggling in FPL and they start to do well. You know, that's what you want to see. And hopefully that's the start of many green arrows for you. And if there are any channel members in the chat, by the way, let me know with the emojis that you have available to you with a green or red arrow. You know, what you got this week, how things are looking for you, and also your captaincy maybe. If you captain Haaland or Salah, be sure to let me know. Should I keep João Pedro for Forest and Sheffield United or get Matoma? I just get Matoma. I think João Pedro is far too much of a rotation risk. And look, Matoma could also be benched from time to time, but nowhere near as much. 65 points with no Salah and Son, Maddison and Bodro to play. That just goes to show that no player is absolutely essential, even though Salah looks like the best player right now to have in FPL. How many hits is reasonable to take over a season? Not sure how to calculate that, but to give a bit of context, at one point, I think it was my first ever season in FPL, by December or Christmas, I took over 100 points worth of hits, and I still managed to, I think, come back from, I don't know, 1 or 2 million maybe, all the way up to the top 100k. I think I was in the top 70k in the end, so it's definitely possible to make up all these massive hits, but I would just not go overboard with it. Just ask yourself, is this hit necessary? Will it benefit me in the long term? If the answer is yes, then go for it. But just question yourself and don't, you know, go gong-ho with the hits. 67 points with Son and Maddison left, but everyone in my league has scored 55 plus. Well, that's not too bad, though. You scored 12 points more than them, so that's all good. Simicast or Cash in this week? Cash still. Against Luton Town and the immediate short term, I'd prioritise him. Should I keep Pedro for Forest? Yep, already answered. Is it hard to get Haaland back? I wouldn't say it's extremely difficult, but for some people it will be. You know, in terms of people who might have used all their budget up with, you know, no Haaland, maybe they have Trippier, Salah, Son, you know, all these options, Ollie Watkins, Saka, etc. It will be difficult, but by Gameweek 16 it should be possible. You have plenty of time to think about how to get Haaland back in. Gameweek 11 will be the big issue, I think, for a lot of people. That week alone could decimate the ranks, at least temporarily. Johnston versus Areola, what do you think? I still prefer Areola a little bit because he's cheaper. They both considered 4 goals this week, so there's not really any reactionary bias there. And yeah, I just think Areola's fixtures are better. West Ham are also still a bit more convincing than Crystal Palace overall. But look, Johnston's a good option. There's no doubt about it. I would argue they're the 2 best goalkeepers on the wildcard this week. 60 points with Udogie, Maddison and Son to play. Good stuff. Son out, Matoma in. Not necessarily, to be honest. I'd only do that if you're upgrading another position as well. I'll be honest, mate. I would go for Watkins, Alvarez and Haaland instead, but from those 2, it'd be Darwin Núñez. I would not go for Gabriel Jesus, to be honest. Yeah, he might haul in Gameweek 10, but in the long term, he's not the one to go for. I have 2 free transfers, and I can barely do Bruno, Maddison to Salah and Douglas Luiz. Should I do it? I think just for Salah alone, I'd go for it, but not a massive fan of Douglas Luiz, to be honest. I'm just putting out there. I know he scored a brace today. He was man of the match, but I'm not so sure about that. Master says currently at 2.2 million, 67 points. Son and Udogie left. Can't get Trippier. Was 4.5 million back when wildcarding in Gameweek 7. Good stuff then. Gonna do Botman to Simicast. Which 3 defenders to start? Yeah, I think that's a good transfer. Defenders to start, it would be Gabriel, Cash and Simicast. 65 points with Son, Udogie and Maddison to go. Well, yeah, it's not too bad. 65 points. It's not great, but it's not too bad. Come on, people. Only 1 quarter have hit the like. button. All this advice is worth a like. Thank you to Stupaki, always massively appreciated. And as he says, it costs nothing, and yeah, it just really helps out the channel in the algorithm. I brought in Neto, Bowen, Salah, Trippier, and Mbeumo on the wild card. Good stuff. Sometimes FPL is a really fun game. Not for me, but at least it is for you. I don't think Mbeumo is a good choice long term, but as a short term punt, you know, for Game Week 9, good stuff. That was a great pick, but I would try to sell him in the weeks to come. That's just my personal take. Nunez surely starts next week. Yeah, I think he will, but I still prefer Watkins and Alvarez by some considerable distance. My mate had Watkins, Bowen, and Douglas Luiz. What a punt. That was over 30 points with the free. Great stuff. Fair play to him, of course. Those are the sort of moves you dream of, and I haven't done one of those sets of moves in a long time in FPL. Should I keep Pedro for Forest? Okay, I'm going to answer it one more time, but I have answered it already. I would get Mitoma. That's my final answer. How long Tsimikas will be a regular starter? So long as Robertson's out, which will be 2 to 3 months, I think it is. It's 10 to 12 weeks. So, not sure exactly how many game weeks that is, but it's going to be a considerable number. And yeah, Tsimikas is a good option for the next 6 game weeks or so, for sure. Could I go without Watkins and have Luiz instead? I don't think Luiz is good cover for Watkins. That's my personal take. Who's the best captaincy option for Game Week 10 other than Salah? Watkins, Saka would be right up there for me. Thoughts on Darwin Nunez up until Game Week 13? Yeah, look, I don't mind him. And apart from Haaland, you know, you're looking at Watkins and Alvarez. They're the top 3. But after that, I think Nunez is right up there, and the only concern with him is minutes and benchings from time to time. Thoughts on Martinelli for wildcard 10? I like Martinelli, but there is a huge difference between Saka and Martinelli, and if you can, just go to Saka. He's far more consistent, and Martinelli, I'm not going to say he's going to be benched for Trossard, but it would not surprise me if Martinelli's subbed off around 67 minutes sometimes, and Trossard comes on, makes an impact. Arsenal have some squad depth in those positions, not on Saka's side though. So yeah, I just go for Saka. How does it work for Trippier to reach 6.9 million? Currently sells for 6.7. So yeah, the way it works is, so let's say for example you bring in Trippier, he's 6.5 million. And whilst he's in your team, he goes up in price to 6.6 million. You wouldn't have gained anything in terms of sell value, because the way it works, you need the player, whilst in your team, to go up by 0.2 million in overall value in order to gain 0.1 million in selling price. So Trippier will go up to 6.7 million from 6.5, and then you'll have 6.6 million selling value. So hopefully you understand that that's the way it works. Bowen or Diaby if you could only fit one? Well, I'm looking long term, and I'd say Bowen. No doubt about it. But of course, this week, you're looking at the fixtures, you would maybe favour Diaby, but I have to say Bowen here. I have to. I have Trippier, Salah, Son, Maddison, Alvarez, and Haaland. I can afford Maddison to Saka and Alvarez to Watkins, but for a -8, is that worth it? I already play my wild card. Well, look, you're getting rid of 2 good options, but you're also bringing in 2 good options. I'm not sure if it's worth a -8 hit necessarily. I think Watkins and Saka have great fixtures this week, and they should outscore Maddison and Alvarez. I think I'd just about do it, but in the long term, I'm talking about the next 5 to 10 game weeks, it's going to be very close between those players. So it's all about timing. If you can get it right, you know, make the transfers now and then bring maybe Maddison back in or whoever it may be, like Alvarez, at the right time, I think that could really work out for you. So as an example, you could sell Watkins back to Alvarez in game week 15. Son and Alvarez to Saka and Watkins for a -4. Yeah, would be my answer. So we're getting quite a few similar scenarios there. Nuisance BS says, hi Dylan, good week for me. Good to hear. 67 points with Son, Maddison and a doggy left. Yeah, that's a cemented green arrow, and it could even be a massive green arrow depending on what happens tomorrow. Milner says, I've dropped terribly lately, so maybe going to go for a rogue captain like Saka or maybe Watkins for a cheeky rise. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, maybe I've played the game a bit too boring this season, made some basic mistakes, but yeah, sometimes I feel like when I do go a bit different, I do get punished, and people might have that same perspective, but you just got to play it your way and always trust your gut. If you think Saka or Watkins could outscore Salah, go for it. Why not? But the way I'd rank it is still Salah first, Watkins second, and Saka third. But I do like your thinking. Just try to, how do I say this? It's very difficult, I think, because maybe your rank or situation and maybe your captaincy history will play a part in your thinking, but Just play your game. Always captain the player you think will score the most points. You might get it wrong from time to time, and in my case, most of the time, but that is the only way to play the game, in my opinion. Thinking of Watkins or Saka captain? Yeah. You just look at Salah getting 2 massive returns in back-to-back weeks, and you kind of think, well, surely he's going to blank now, and that could also play a part in your thinking. But then again, some people said about the early kickoff, and look what happened. So there's not an exact science to FPL, and that's what people love about it. Is Watkins going up today? No, I don't think so. I can quickly check for you, but I don't think there's any price rises happening today. So let's have a quick look at fplstatistics.co.uk. If we check in terms of price rises, Bowen is the closest. If we look at Watkins, he is quite close actually, 81.5%, and he's rising rapidly, as you can see by the arrows on the right. But yeah, I wouldn't say he's going up today. Maybe in the coming days, but it's not going to be a rush. So yeah, Sedendra, you can see the answers on screen there. Udogie, Burn and Gabriel, which two should I start? Burn and Gabriel for me, but it's quite tricky actually. I think the algorithms do favour the two I said. But yeah, it is worth mentioning that Crystal Palace do look toothless. So a Spurs clean sheet isn't impossible. It's not impossible, let's say. Dylan, do you think Haaland could haul against United? Yes, definitely. But I'm mainly looking at Bournemouth in Gameweek 11. I think Haaland will score at Old Trafford. He didn't last season, but I think he will this time round. And I think he'll score 2 at least against Bournemouth. And if I'm right here, then that means my prediction of Haaland getting 4 goals between Gameweeks 9 to 11 would ring true. So let's wait and see how it all turns out. Is getting Martinelli instead of Saka fine? Look, it's fine, yes. Martinelli is a good option, but I think there's a big difference at the moment. I think Saka is just worth the extra. Yeah, Mecca, I can't lie. You're literally just spamming the chat, so goodbye. From 4.5 million to 2.2 million. Yeah, Snipe Master, we covered your question earlier. I think you're fine. You should get 75 plus points, I think. I think it's possible. And that's a really good rank rise in the last couple of weeks. Gwyn Evans says, hi Dylan, would you do Anderson and Mbeumo to Matoma and Gabriel for Gameweek 10? Yeah, I would. I think that's a good set of transfers, really good moves. And Mbeumo, enjoy the points from Gameweek 9, and I think it's time to sell now. Anthony Gordon or Doku or Mbeumo or Neto? Gordon for me. It'd be Gordon, then Neto, and then the other two would be a bit further behind. Probably Mbeumo 3rd and Doku 4th. Thank you, Shem. I appreciate that. Big up to Kenya. It's always good to see people watching from all over the world, whether it's Africa, South America, Europe, you name it. 75 points so far with Borough and Madison to play. Yeah, good luck. Hopefully you get 80 plus points and enjoy that green arrow. Follow up on that bench question. My 15 are Areola, Turner, Udogie, Cash, Dean, Taylor, Baldock, Salah, Son, Saka, Mbeumo, Hannibal, Haaland, Alvarez, Watkins. Yeah, I can see what you mean there. Maybe you could even do something simple in the short term, like Baldock to Lascelles. You know, that could work out for you, and you have a decent bench option for the next couple of weeks. That could be decent for you. Your starting 11 is good, and of course your bench is pretty poor, but overall your team is in a good position, I have to say. Milner says, this team for Gameweek 10: Johnston, Cash, Gabriel, Trippier, Salah, Gordon, Madison, Son, Saka, Darwizi, Watkins, bench, Turner, Boro, Alvarez, Kabore. Already made transfers. If anyone rose, I couldn't have done them. Yeah, that's fair enough. Your starting 11 is looking pretty good, actually. I think Johnston's the only concern. And you've also got Turner away to Liverpool. So yeah, Johnston's the only weak link, I think, in Gameweek 10. The rest should do really well. Twisted Parky says, thinking of Udogie to Tsimikas, but is Gabriel better? I think so still. As good as Liverpool are, I think Arsenal are more solid defensively. I'm thinking of getting him in Gameweek 11 anyway. Mbeumo for Saka, then Mbeumo back in Gameweek 14, potentially. But with Saka, he's kind of a long-term hold for me. But of course, it all depends on priorities and what happens in the future. Or Gordon, Bowen, or have 2 transfers. Yeah, if you decide to go back to a cheaper midfielder, I think Bowen is the one. I think he really is. In terms of Saka, Gordon, or Bowen, who would I pick? It'd be Saka still, then Bowen, then Gordon. 58 points and still 10 points behind for a green arrow. Yeah, I think the free Spurs players could just about give you a green arrow there. I think they might struggle a little bit tomorrow, but 3-1 was my prediction there. I'm selling Son and getting Saka. It is a very popular move. We discussed this even from last week and 2 weeks ago. Game Week 8 wildcarders were discussing it for a long time. So, yeah, let's wait and see. It's just worth mentioning that Son has a great record. Let me just get the exact numbers up for Heung-min Son. And by the way, we have over 200 people watching, so thank you very much to those who have decided to tune in today. Very much appreciated. Let's try to get this stream to 150 likes. It costs nothing, and it really helps us out. So the exact stat I have is in 15 matches against Crystal Palace, Son has 7 goals and 2 assists. Fairly decent. And in the Premier League alone, it is 14 games with 7 goals and 2 assists. So, yeah, pretty good numbers. He averages a goal per 2 games against Crystal Palace. And Spurs have a decent record against the Eagles, especially in recent years. So, yeah, it could backfire, but Saka is still the better option, I think, in the next couple of weeks. Let's go back now to my team, my amazing team. And Weiseng says, anyone know what the hell is wrong with Turner and Nottingham Forest? Well, to be honest, look, it is Nottingham Forest, and Turner's only produced 2 returns this season, and he's a 4.1 million goalkeeper. I think what's most surprising or shocking is that Nottingham Forest were 2-0 up and they bottled it at the end. I think that is the big issue. How does it work for Trippier? Max, I did explain it earlier. So basically, to summarize again, if a player goes up by 0.2 million in overall value, you will gain 0.1 million in selling value. Too many good players and can't have them all. Yeah, exactly that. And it's all about having the right players at the right time, which I'm making a mess of this season. Let's see what else we have. Odegaard played badly. To be honest, Odegaard's very inconsistent at the moment. He has an amazing game against PSV or Bournemouth, but he can have a stinker against Tottenham, against Chelsea. So yeah, I just think he needs to be a bit more consistent. And maybe a positional change, you know, instead of being the right central midfielder, maybe playing on the left in the kind of Havertz role or Xhaka role. And I have to say, Havertz played well yesterday coming on, also against Man City, but yeah, very disappointing yesterday. Good night, success. Giving 2 goals away to Luton is embarrassing, especially in the last few minutes of the game when you're 2-0 up. Yeah, I agree to Stupaki. Arsenal were terrible. It's only the last 15 minutes where Sanchez gifted them a lifeline. Great goal by Rice, and suddenly the momentum changed. But before that, Arsenal were terrible. Best replacement for Mbeumo, Jarrod Bowen. Yeah. Govon next week, Son or Saka? Saka. Got Chris Wood this week. Bless, a good one for once. Good stuff. Fair play. I saw someone, buy him on the free hit, and I said I wouldn't go for it, and that's why you got to back your gut. 78 with 3 Spurs players to go. Really good score. 2 free transfers, Rashford and Bruno to Salah and Diaby, and keep Mbeumo. I mean, yeah, I would do that, but I would also sell Mbeumo when possible, maybe to Jarrod Bowen, to name an example. Or Rashford and Mbeumo to Salah and Palmer. Nah, go for the first set of transfers, mate. Chris Wood was just the best for the spare cash left under the sofa, yeah. And I wouldn't necessarily go for Chris Wood in the long term. He's kind of a short-term punt in a game week like 9. 74 points, Son, Maddison and Udogie still to go. Great stuff, Emma. It's good to hear. And a lot of 70-plus points, I have to say, this week. What rank can I reach this season, says Snipemaster? I mean, there's still a long way to go. Like someone said earlier, they were 1.3 million in Game Week 9, and now, at this moment in time, they're around 133k. There's a long way to go. You can still finish top 100k easily. You just need to build some consistency and rhythm, which you are doing in recent weeks. Yeti with 30 to go. 100 plus points, is it doable? I think so. Imagine any midfield of a team in Premier League getting stripped by a Finnish club. To be honest, though, it's not just the midfield. I think the whole team was off it, and when I saw the lineup, because I saw a league lineup before, and it had Partey instead of Jorginho, and I was really happy. I was like, that's probably the best Arsenal team, with the exception of Timber. And yeah, after I saw Jorginho in, I was like, I don't know, my confidence kind of waned a little bit when I saw the lineup. But look, I think overall it's easy to say things in hindsight, but it is something I felt in the moment when I saw the lineups. True was boring under Hamilton as well. The sport is like watching Celtic or PSG in their divisions, or Man City in the Premier League, I'd say. What else we have? Green Arrow says Pranav, good stuff. 91 points says Muaz. All Brighton players are. It's a nightmare. Yeah, it's true. But the most nailed on are Mitoma and Estupinian. Currently top 150k. Good stuff, Dawn. Keep it up. Chim says wildcarded 81 points of Maddison, Son and Boros to go. Wow, really good. And the captaincy is more than good. It's excellent. 82 so far, Son and Pedro Porro. A lot of people with Son and Pedro Porro still. I have to say that. By the way, everyone thought City would smash us. Yeah, I actually said I thought City would score at least 3. My prediction was 3-1 though. A bit like last year where it was 3-1, but it was slightly tight for most of the game. Yeah, Brighton gave a good account of themselves and maybe could have snatched something towards the end. But yeah, Brighton are a good team. It's just at times they can completely lose it, like against Aston Villa. Would you go Watkins or Alvarez wildcard? Watkins for the time being. Currently 5.5k. I think that's the second best rank I've seen today in the live chat. Really good stuff. Excellent content. How does Son to Saka, Kluivert to Matoma, and Wissa to Archer sound? Great, to be honest. Wissa to Archer, necessary downgrade, and of course, Wissa did well in Gameweek 9. As much as Matoma is a bit of a rotation risk, he should start most games. And Son to Saka, for me, is an upgrade. It might backfire in Gameweek 10, but long term, it should stick, and Saka is the clear victor there. Areola or Vicario Gameweek 10. You know what? I think I'd go for Vicario. 83 with a doggy. Son, Maddison left, went from 1.5 million to 300k right now in 2 weeks with a -8 hit. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Let's see what else we have. How many points you got? It's on screen. You can literally see on screen. Are you going to do a Gameweek 10 wildcard? Yes, I probably will. Like I said, there's UCL fantasy content coming along, and the deadline stream on Tuesday. Keep Saliba or buy Powell? Keep Saliba. What's the best value Brighton defender? Estupinian when he returns from injury. I never own any Spurs attackers all season and ready to get destroyed. Let's wait and see. I'm not that confident, to be honest, as a double Spurs attack owner. I missed the first 3 game weeks of the season, have 414 points. I get 85 points this week. That's good, to be honest. I mean, if you played the first 3 game weeks, you definitely have more points than me, that's for sure. Which, to be honest, isn't saying much. Gordon, Neto, and Gabriel in for Richarlison and Borro. 2 free transfers, Game Week 10. Yeah, I like that. I think Borro to Gabriel isn't necessary, but Richarlison to Gordon or Neto, that's just an upgrade. Benched Mbeumo for Neto. Last week I benched Sterling for Mbeumo. Yeah, I mean, I do feel for you. It's just that Burnley fixture that's really good, and that's why a lot of people who had like 8 attackers and they were saying I might bench Mbeumo. I was saying try not to bench Mbeumo if possible, but it's difficult, you know. If it's Mbeumo versus, let's say, Saka, I'm always going to start Saka regardless of the fixture. Expecting a game that Spurs scoring 4+ goals very soon. Yeah, I think they'll score 2 or 3 tomorrow, but the more we get closer to the game, the less confident I am. And of course, apologies, by the way, for being so far behind in the chat. I was just trying to get through every single question, but it was kind of in vain, to be honest. So I had to go all the way to the top again. Adil says, hi, I just joined. Who is likely to rise in price tonight or tomorrow? No one, to be honest. I think Foden is quite close to a price fall. But in terms of price rises, nothing yet. Hi, Roa transfer or Mbeumo to Matoma now? I think Mbeumo to Matoma now is good. Although, if you've got the funds, Bowen is slightly better for me. I regret now so much for captaining Mbeumo. Fair enough, but even then, look, I would have started Mbeumo if I had him, but I wouldn't have captained him. I'm just saying that now. Mbeumo came in clutch for me, fair play. I think Mbeumo got me an 8-pointer in Game Week 4 when I brought him in, but after that, he was just trash. Son says, mid, Fernandes, Saka, Mbeumo, Son, Foden, defense, Trippier, Kasha, share, attack, Alvarez, Haaland, 1 free transfer, my wildcard is still intact. Should I wildcard? I mean, what would I change on the wildcard? Fernandes, Mbeumo, Foden. I think the rest is completely fine. I don't think you need to change anything necessarily, but you might want Watkins up front. So that's basically 3 changes off the top of my head. And I don't know what your bench is, so, and your goalkeepers. So would I wildcard? Maybe, but it's not absolutely necessary. 3 defenders you would start. I did cover this. I would have gone for Gabriel, Cash, and Tsimikas, mate. My starting 11 says R. It's good. I mean, what can I say? It's really good. Even Solanke there could do really well. Yeah, I actually like that a lot, to be honest. Not much to really... The only concern I'd have is Neto, but the rest looks great. Let's see what else we have. Going all out with Haaland, Watkins, Maddison, Son, Salah, and Trippier has been worth it so far. Yeah, at the moment, I think... just kind of fitting all these great players in is the way to go instead of having that balanced squad, which I keep talking about. Rashford had a chance to score from a Bruno assist. I had both. Yeah, but in the end, I still think they're sells, to be honest. And I think 1 Man United player max. Sorry, I meant Mbeumo out and in Saka, and then Mbeumo back in for someone else in Game Week 14. Nah, I don't think so. I mean, look, things can change by the time we get to Game Week 14, but I think that's kind of just a wait and reassess. I don't think you necessarily need to get Mbeumo back in by Game Week 14. Or would you get rid of Son, Bowen, or Gordon instead of Mbeumo? Nah, I would not get rid of those players instead of Mbeumo. I'd sell Mbeumo. If Stupinian is immune to price drop, yeah, maybe is. I think FPL headquarters have something to do with it. Havertz's height has very obvious usefulness for Arsenal. Yeah, and he's good at link-up, I have to say. Look, he's not been spectacular. He's not worth 65 million, but I think he is a bit overhated. When people say he's the worst transfer so far this season, I could think of 5 worse. 53 with 3 Spurs players. Not bad week, but not that good either. Yeah, same here, to be honest, mate. I'm in the same boat. Hopefully things change very soon. Hi, Dylan, 70 points plus 3 Spurs players. Yeah, that's a good position to be in. Rashford to Douglas Luiz for lower budget to cover Aston Villa attack instead of Diaby. I just go for Diaby, to be honest. I like Gordon, and I think long-term he's better than Diaby, but if I'm bringing a player now, I'd go for Diaby and then make the switch to Gordon maybe around Game Week 15. Sam says 2 free transfers, Foden to Bowen or Martinelli. I'd go for Bowen. Save another transfer. Or get Foden to Saka and Mbeumo to Gordon. Oof, that is a really tough question. So in terms of your first one, which is Bowen or Maddison, it would be Bowen. But what would I do? Probably the Saka and Gordon move. As much as I like Bowen, I think Saka and Gordon is really good. Fulham may be a little toothless, but they are solid. I disagree. I think they were very fortunate against Arsenal and Everton. And if it wasn't for Leno and a bit of fortune, I'd say, I think they lose both games quite easily, so I'm not too sure about that. It's just more about Spurs maybe overthinking the game and not playing to the optimum level if they end up dropping points or struggling tomorrow. I want to change Mbeumo and Haaland for Salah and Isak or Wilson. Should I make the switch now or wait till Thursday? Yeah, look, once again, as I keep on saying with Newcastle forwards, it's going to be a constant headache. And unless one is injured, like this week with Isak, and it paves the way for Wilson, it's just a constant, battle there about who starts. So, yeah, as much as I like Salah, I think I'd go for a different striker, even Darwin in the short term. But my overall preference is Watkins and Alvarez instead of the Newcastle assets. Overall, would I do it? Yeah, I would. Prias says Alisson, Trippier, Dallo. So you put your team, still got the wild card, but don't want to use it. Any recommendations? Well, if I'm kind of nitpicking your team, Dallo is still a sell, despite his great goal yesterday. Alisson, you can find better value there. And a double up in Liverpool defensively. Not bad for the next 2, but long term I would get off that. Bruno's a sell as well for me. So there's a few things you want to do. Maybe bring Watkins in up front too. So yeah, I'd sell Bruno to, let's say, Jarrod Bowen. I'd do something like that. Maybe if you have enough funds, I'd also, let's see what else you could do. Dallo to Gabriel. That's another good move you can make. And then you can have the funds easily to get Watkins up front. And if that's a -4 hit, I actually wouldn't be against that. Yeah, Snipe Master, we have covered that already. Try not to spam the chat. Gavardiol, keep or sell? Sell. Rashford to Matoma? I would do it. Is Maddison to Bowen in Game Week 10 a bad move in isolation for the next 4 or 5 game weeks? No. I think Bowen probably outscores Maddison in the next 4 to 5. Ideally, you have both, maybe, but look, you can't have everyone, and Bowen is more of a talismanic figure right now than Maddison. And look, a Maddison haul tomorrow might change your mind, so I'd definitely wait, until all the games are done, and also the Champions League and all the European games. But my initial instinct is that Bowen is slightly better over the next 4 to 5. Why are you starting only Burn instead of double defense? In terms of Game Week 9, like I said before, it's because I thought Botman would start based on Eddie Howe's comments. I think someone went back to 2016, the last time when Eddie Howe made a similar comment about a player, back when he was at Bournemouth, and the player ended up starting. So maybe I shouldn't have looked into that and just played Lascelles and risked it. But either way, just a difference of 4 points. I've done much worse this season, trust me. It's K-Man says I have Diaby, Son, Maddison, Salah, Mbeumo, Alvarez, Haaland and Edouard. Yeah, I think the players you want to kind of get rid of there are Mbeumo and Edouard. Edouard's a clear sell. So if you can, Edouard up to Watkins and maybe Mbeumo down to Gordon. Can you afford that? Maybe you can go to Palmer even. If you can do that, I'd go ahead with those moves. Sell Foden or sell Odegaard to get Saka. I'd sell Foden based on the fixture. I know he faces Bournemouth in Game Week 11, but I wouldn't sell Odegaard against Sheffield United. And by the way, another midfielder for you, it's K-Man, very much discussed today, is Douglas Luiz. You can get him potentially and Watkins for Edouard and Mbeumo. Let me know if you can afford it. I have a feeling you might not be able to, which would be a shame. Best replacement for Mbeumo, Jarrod Bowen. Botman update, I think he's going to return in a couple of weeks. I think it's the 11th of November. So in terms of an official game week, if I look at it here, yeah, basically game week 12 is when he should be back. So it looks like Botman could miss Wolves and Arsenal in the next 2 game weeks. Is this a good squad, says Isaac. Yes, it is a good squad. In terms of issues I'd have, it would be probably Soufal. I don't like the double up in West Ham defensively. Lamptey as well could be a problem. So your defense might need a little bit more depth. Not necessary, but it would be ideal. It's really nitpicking though. The rest is completely fine. Mason Mount is 100% worse. Yeah, I agree. But you wouldn't think it. You think of it that way based on the comments. I plan to do Archer to Watkins and Haaland to Alvarez. I have Darwin. I'd personally hold Haaland if possible, but if it's a question of Haaland or Salah, I'd probably be inclined to sell Haaland myself if it was that. But apart from Salah, I don't think I'd sell Haaland for absolutely anybody else in the game, really. A bit worried based on today, but I think he will do extremely well in Game Week 10. I'm very confident. Going without Haaland is just silly. Well, yeah, I mean, look, people are doing well without him. I saw someone in the Rating Your Teams video last week who said they're in the top 50k without Haaland, so it's possible to do well without him, but I think there will come a time where, you know, he could go absolutely crazy and those that don't have him might regret it. But look, you just can't cover every single possibility. You're going to get some things right and some things wrong. You need luck to fall, your way. And maybe those non-Haaland owners have been slightly fortunate, and those that have Haaland have been a bit unlucky. But look, at the end of the day, he's owned by almost 90% of the game still. So it's a very small minority that don't have him. I want to switch Salah. Can he rise twice this week? Yeah, I think the cap is 0.2 or 0.3 million in terms of price rises. I don't think Salah will go up by that much. I think maximum he'll go up to 12.7 million. Okay, so I agree Gabriel for a doggy, but then I will have Trippier, Burn, Gordon, Saka and Gabriel all for the same game. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, in that case, you could go for Tsimikas now and then bring Gabriel in for Burnley in Game Week 12. I mean, just because I think it's a slightly better fixture for Liverpool, and Tsimikas, I would argue he has a bit more attacking threat compared to a doggy. Adil says at the moment, I've got to get rid of Haaland on the wild card, can always bring him back in, but if you were me, would you also get rid of Alvarez? Ideally, no. I try to have one Man City coverage, so if you don't have Haaland, try to have Alvarez, but if it's a question of Watkins and Alvarez, you know who I'm going to pick. It will be Watkins right now. Gvardiol to Gabriel or Tsimikas. My preference is Gabriel, but if you have a situation like Twisted Parky where you have 2 or 3 Arsenal and Newcastle players and you don't want that clash in Game Week 11, you could consider Tsimikas instead, but my preference is the Brazilian. Keep or sell Neto? I think it's a keep. Bring Saka for Son or not? I'd bring Saka. Which one out of Son or Maddison is better on the Game Week 10 wildcard? If money is no issue, I have to say that, it would be Son. But if, you know, for example, having Son instead of Maddison means you can't get Trippier or maybe Haaland or Salah, then you have to also factor that into your thinking there. But if money's no issue, it would be Son. Is Haaland still a must? I think in certain game weeks like Game Week 11 he is, and also from Game Week 16 onwards, he's an absolute must-have. But for now, you can do well without him, I think, over the next 5 game weeks or so. Son says, Fernandes, Mbeumo and Foden, who should I take out of one free transfer and for who? Probably Fernandes, he's the most expensive. And yeah, with Fernandes, good fixtures afterwards, but there's so many players you can go to, like Saka, maybe even Son, you can still bring him in. So yeah, Fernandes is probably the one based on value. Foden has poor fixtures, to be fair, up until Game Week 16, I think it is. It's a really tough one, I can't lie to you. If you can do Foden to Saka, something like that, then I'd sell Foden then. Hold Haaland. I plan to do Archer to Watkins and Haaland to Alvarez. I have Darwin. Hold Haaland. Yeah, I'd hold Haaland there in that situation. Archer to Watkins and Haaland to Alvarez. I have Darwin. Oof. If that's your only way to get Watkins, because you could do Darwin to Watkins potentially. If you can do that, then just do that and keep Haaland, but yeah, otherwise you have to reconsider. I'm playing the wild card. Should I play Cash, Son, or Trippier and Bowen? Out of those 4, I have to pick one. Surely not. My favourite would be... It's extremely difficult. There's no way you have to bench 3 of them. Come on, surely. If it's just bench 1, then... Maybe I'd bench Bowen. It seems a bit risky. 6, more like 400 likes, says Twisted Parky. Benching Cash turned out okay. Yeah, I mean, he was facing West Ham. I even said it. I didn't expect a clean sheet. My prediction was 3-2 to Aston Villa. 74 points plus Maddison to play. Hope your weekend went well. Likewise, Jack, thank you very much. I was a bit disappointed about the game yesterday, but overall, decent weekend. Mbeumo and Haaland out for Salah and Watkins. Yes, it's an upgrade. I'd do it. Replacement for Mbeumo. Yeah, so you've got Bowen in already. I'd still consider Diaby as a short-term punt. Soucek to Palmer, yeah, I think that's good. Good upgrade. Salah's already 12.7, so 12.8 then. I went without Haaland, and it's worked out well so far. Nervous when they play Bournemouth, yeah. But look, even if your rank gets decimated temporarily, you should be fine up until Game Week 16, I'd say. Would you do Botman to Tsimikas now? No, I don't think so. Rank the Newcastle defenders on wildcard. Trippier first, Burns second. Share third, Lascelles fourth. I think Lascelles is a good short-term punt. Yeah, I use my wildcard in Game Week 8. I got a green arrow. And this week, I should get a green arrow in the end when the triple Spurs players play tomorrow. Palmer, yeah, probably the best sub 5 million midfielder. But with the fixtures coming up, not too sure if he's a priority, to be fair. Well, it was Beardy, but I'm going to have to reassess that based on my start. It's the worst one I've had, I think, ever. Sim of UCL Fantasy. But yeah, top 10k would be great. I'd take it right now, of course. I plan to keep Darwin. Yeah, of course. Look, he should start next week, and I think he'll do well against Forest. Sam says 2 free transfers. Yeah, same here. I've got 2 free transfers as well. So there's a lot to mull over the next coming days. Remember, there is going to be more UCL Fantasy content. There's a team selection video out tomorrow. If you haven't seen it already, there's a wildcard video for Matchday 3 up on the channel. Yesterday, I also uploaded the best Limitless team. And also, there's so much content headed your way, like the deadline stream on Tuesday for UCL Fantasy. I think it'll be at 3:30 p.m. UK time, so be sure not to miss it. And for FPL, the plan is to do a transcripts video for Game Week 10, also the best wildcard team and team selection alongside the usual deadline stream, which I think is on Friday, by the way. I think we have a Friday deadline for the first time in a long while. If you have a quick look here, and by the way, in terms of bonus points, it looks like Douglas Luiz gets 3, Watkins gets 2, whilst Bowen and Konsa share 1. And look at Ward-Prowse, not that far away from bonus points despite being battered 4-1 and no goal contributions. I'm just hoping for Ward-Prowse to do something because, yeah, he's been a bit frustrating on my wildcard so far. But now the fixtures are turning. Let's see how it all goes. But yeah, the deadline next week is on the Friday when Crystal Palace play against Spurs in the late kickoff there. So we'll be streaming around 4:30 p.m. UK time on the Friday and 3:30 p.m. UK time on Tuesday for UCL Fantasy. So much content is headed your way. Let's go for a few more questions very quickly and then wrap things up. Orwa says, Kabore and Son out for Saka and Gabriel for 2 free transfers. Yes, I think those are great upgrades, and I'm looking at similar moves myself. It's going to be very popular, actually, if I'm being quite honest. 62 of Porro, Maddison and Son to play. Yeah, good stuff. 70 plus is possible. I think it will happen. Sam says 2 free transfers, first Foden to Saka. Yep. Second, Johnson to Areola or Mbeumo to Gordon. I would do Mbeumo to Gordon. Have to do second transfer or to fund first move. Completely understandable. As much as I like Areola, I think the best move for you is Mbeumo to Gordon. Alvarez to Watkins and Mbeumo to Mitoma. Yes. Good transfers. Wildcard 9 seems to have paid off so far. Feel like I'm a week ahead on popular Game Week 10 assets like Salah, Bowen, Watkins. Yep, good stuff. And I think when you wildcard also plays a big part because, for example, Game Week 8, you know, I wasn't that keen on Bowen and West Ham assets. I got Ward-Prowse in because I couldn't afford Bowen. And, you know, because I wildcarded then, it might have impacted on certain decisions I would have made. Because, for example, with the same funds in now, if I was to wildcard now, I'd have Gabriel instead of Lascelles, and I'd also have Saka instead of Son, and I'd also have Bowen instead of Ward-Prowse. So there's a few things I would have possibly changed, but not too much, to be honest. Neto is playing Newcastle next week. Would you bench him? Yeah, I think I would. But he is really consistent. I think he could get a goal contribution, probably an assist, but I don't see a high ceiling for him. Thoughts on Tonali? I don't know enough about the situation, but you know, you saw Ivan Toney get banned. It's only right that it happens to Tonali as well, if he is guilty, which I think he is. Good player, but I don't even know why these players are, you know, getting involved in all this stuff, but I prefer not to comment, to be honest. Should I wildcard Haaland out for Nunez, Salah and Watkins? But what other transfers would you make? You know, what would your midfield be, your defence? Would you have Trippier? And what would your structure be? How many changes would you make on the wildcard? If you're making 5-6 changes, then fair enough, you know. I think that justifies the wild card. But just bear in mind, Haaland does face Man United and Bournemouth in the next 2. I personally think he'll get 3 goals in the next 2, and I'm going to stick to my prediction from last week there. Who to keep on my wild card, Son and Cash or Trippier and Bowen? I would keep Trippier and Bowen. Who would be a 1-week punt in Game Week 10 if you already have Saka and cannot get to Salah in Game Week in one free transfer? Darwin Nunez and Martinelli spring to mind. I wouldn't captain them, but they're good punts. Bowen's another one, although he's going to become very popular. His ownership will probably go up to 20 to 25%. Do you think the 2 Spurs matches this week will affect the players? That is a good point. I was literally thinking about that when I saw the Friday deadline. Thank you for raising that, R. Yeah, they're literally playing tomorrow and on Friday, and it could be one of the first times that they feel fatigue. You know, I think it'll be a low-scoring game against Crystal Palace anyway, and that's what would also play into the narrative of selling Son to Saka. So really good stuff. I think it could play a part. Obviously, tomorrow will be fine, but I think the impact could be felt in Game Week 10 against Palace. Who to captain between Salah, Saka and Watkins? Look, my overall ranking at the moment is Salah first, Watkins second, and Saka third. But I also have in the back of my mind, Salah just produced 2 massive returns on the bounce. You kind of get that feeling it's going to come down. But look, my captaincy thoughts and decisions haven't been great this season, to be honest. So take what I say with a pinch of salt. Mbeumo out for Diaby and Son out for Saka from -4. Yes and yes. As much as I like Son, he could do well in Game Week 10. I think it's worth it based on the ceiling of Diaby and Saka. Best front 3 of the game, Haaland, Watkins and Alvarez. Adil says Darwin, Salah, Alvarez and Watkins or Haaland and Salah. It would be... Or just Haaland and Salah, is it? I see what you mean there. I see what you mean. I think Haaland and Salah. 24k Will says 2 free transfers: Johnston, Turner, Trent, Trippier, Doggy, Cash, Lamptey, Son, Maddison, Bowen, Salah, Neto, Archer, Alvarez and Watkins. Good stuff. There's not really too much to dissect there. I think Trent will be a sell in the coming weeks, but you can keep him for the next 2. So who do you not have? Haaland is one. But yeah, you've got most of the other key assets, I'd say. What I'd do in your situation is probably Son to Saka and Lamptey up to Gabriel or Tsimikas. But you already have Trent, so I'd prioritize Gabriel instead. Yeah, I think that's what I would do. Get 1 or 2 Arsenal players there, Will. Mbeumo out and Saka in then as well. Or is Matoma, Douglas Luiz or Diaby a better option? I like the others you mentioned, Matoma, Douglas Luiz, Diaby, all good options, but I think Saka is a level above. Sell Son or Maddison to get Saka. The Maddison option also includes downgrading Boro, Ward-Prowse and Trippier. Well, in that case, look, so let's say you could do Maddison to Saka, and then you can downgrade Ward-Prowse to Gordon. I'd do it. That's what I'd do, Magic69. The only issue with that is that in Game Week 11, Newcastle, Arsenal face each other, and you might have a few clashes there. Any Champions League this week? Well, yeah, on Tuesday, the matches begin for Matchday 3. There's already content out on the channel. There will be a deadline stream as well on the Tuesday. 73 points with 3 Spurs to play. No Salah. Good stuff. The Limitless last week was very disappointing. That's probably the worst I've ever felt about a Green Arrow, because I literally got fewer points on the Limitless compared to if I made no transfers at all. Do you know how crazy that sounds? I was questioning my whole logic after that, to be honest. But look, you know, you can't always do well. In the Limitless, I think I averaged 95 plus points every time I used it in all fantasy games. So, look, for me to do badly once with the Limitless, it happens. My Salah captaincy punt went well. Yeah, good stuff, Eduardinho. I think you're a Liverpool fan, right? So, yeah, maybe that also played a part. I think I looked too much into the early kickoff stuff. And look, some things did obviously fall Liverpool's way in terms of the red card, the penalty, which was a penalty. Also, Konate not getting sent off. And I think that obviously helped as well. Twister Parky said, keep an eye on price rises. People also buy all... Maybe I didn't read it wrong. Oh, I read it wrong. European games, Brighton, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa, and C all in Europe. Injuries and fatigue may affect your transfers. Yeah, that is true. Would you sell Burn, Alvarez, and Diaby in Game Week 13 for Trippier and Bowen? Yeah, I'd say so. Because Diaby has a good fixture in 14, but overall, that is an upgrade. And a 4-point family and forward, that's completely fine. And kind of frustrating, actually. If I had Mabama or even Muniz instead of Archer, next week I could get Saka for Son, and I think I could also get Bowen for Ward-Prowse. If I try to do those moves now, I'd be 0.1 million off. That is a piss take, it really is. Thank you, Will. Best Gameweek to bring Son to Saka Odegaard. I'd say either Gameweek 10 or 12, but I wouldn't sell Son to Odegaard. It would only be for Saka. Welcome, Alex. Hopefully you're doing well too. It's K-Man says, thanks, Dylan, but I can't get Douglas Luiz or Palmer, but I can do Son to Saka. In Boomer to a 4.8 million mid. Yeah, that's frustrating. You're literally 0.1 million off. And Eduardo Watkins for a -4. Any recommendations? Not really. I'll try to find someone, but there's no one that springs to mind. Maybe I am missing someone, but I'm not really too confident. So I'm having a quick look now. But yeah, I'm not really too confident about this. 4.8 million or below. I'm not going to say McTominay, am I? Jacob Murphy? Nah, he's far too inconsistent. You know, he might have a great game like against Palace this year or Spurs last season, but yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Yeah, for me, if I'm being honest, it's probably, if I had to pick a 4.8 million midfielder or below, it's probably either McTominay or Jacob Murphy, I'd say. Even, I don't think Sarr is the worst pick, but yeah, I think it has to be one of those two if you're looking at that price, to be honest. So let's see, we are now at over 100 likes. Thank you very much. Be sure to smash the like button on your way out. That'd be greatly appreciated. Foremi says 2 free transfers, Richarlison and Taylor out, Neto and Gabriel in. Yeah, great transfers. The only thing is, Neto does face Newcastle now, and I would rather buy Gordon instead at a similar price. R says, if I'm playing a 3-5-2 with Neto in the midfield, should I change to a 4-4-2 with Gay in defence? I don't think I'd play Gay over Neto this week. You know, I don't see Crystal Palace keeping Spurs out. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, but I don't think it'll be a clean sheet for Crystal Palace. And I'd rather back Neto offensively than Crystal Palace defensively. Trent on the wildcard, then sell after a few weeks to free up funds. Not a bad shout. I'm not against that, but the reason why I wouldn't do it personally is because you've got Tsimikas at much cheaper right now. Soucek or Palmer? Palmer. Sanchez versus Raya versus Ramsdale. Look, Raya's not a bad goalkeeper, but there's no denying that in the last couple of games he's been shaky. I think for the second goal, the positioning was poor. He was probably anticipating a cross, which it looked like it was from Mudryk, and he was too advanced, really. I still think Ramsdale and Raya would be better than Sanchez, but look, there's too much made of the Arsenal goalkeeper situation right now. If I'm starting someone next week or even against Sevilla midweek, I'd go for Ramsdale because you have to be fair to both goalkeepers. And Ramsdale in his last game kept a clean sheet, was solid against Brentford, made a great save, and his distribution even was very good, whilst Raya has been shaky against Lens, Man City, Tottenham, and now Chelsea. Will you wildcard to bring in Watkins and Trippier only? No. Already have a team of Salah, Son, Haaland, Alvarez, Gordon. As much as I like Watkins in Game Week 10, my answer is no, and Trippier obviously is fixture-proof, but straight after Wolves away, it's Arsenal at home for Trippier. So I wouldn't just wildcard for 2 transfers. I really wouldn't, because you could possibly take a -4, maybe a -8 to get these 2 players in and save the wildcard, which is so powerful. If people don't become Patreon members, can they also do individual donations to your channel? That is a good question. I think, so look, with YouTube, you can become a YouTube channel member, and there's also super thanks on videos and the super chats, obviously, in the live streams. And YouTube does take a cut, of course. Patreon is, I think, not 100%, but most of it does go to the creator. But yeah, I don't think there's like an individual donation with either website, unless you're doing a super chat or a super thanks, but YouTube does take a cut. I appreciate the question, though. And of course, it's always down to the audience member, you know, if they choose to subscribe or also to support the channel even further. It's K-Man says another option is selling Eduardo to Mabama and getting Watkins for Alvarez with 2 free transfers. Yeah, I would consider it, so long as you have a good midfield 5, and you've got the squad depth necessary in order to pull that off. 100 likes, yep, good stuff. Thank you very much. It's hard to choose a captain next game week. Yeah, look, that's a good thing about FPL right now. You have to give it. You know, it's kind of difficult to choose the captain. You've got Salah basically not blanking at all this season. You've got Erling Haaland, who's always going to be a threat. Heung-min Son's a good captaincy option. Trippier, Watkins, as you say, Saka. There's so many to choose from. I think Salah's the best on paper. Then it's Watkins, then Saka, then probably Haaland as my top 4. Even Trippier is a consideration. Thank you, Cayman. Palmer, Gordon or Matoma. I like Gordon a lot, I have to say that. But with fixtures in mind, it would be Matoma first, Gordon second, and Palmer third. Deadly for you too says, hey Dylan, thanks for your advice last week. I ended up rolling the transfers and got 78 points with Maddison and Son to still play. I appreciate that, Deadly, but of course it's all down to your decision. I'm only giving my opinion, and it's good to see someone's doing well at least. Morris out, Wisser in thoughts, says Orion. I wouldn't bring in Wisser now. I even said last week, against Burnley, fair enough, 1 week punt, I'm all for it, but I would not buy Brentford players afterwards. And look, their expected numbers aren't too bad, and I think they will improve, but I wouldn't buy Wisser and Boomer now. If I had them, I would look to sell if possible too. I'll try to discuss them in the trans tips video as well, since they are quite popular. Do I bring Salah in for a -4 hit? Yes, but it also depends who you sell in order to get that. Maybe instead of a doggy for Simicast, I could go for Gabriel for Burn to then get the same amount of Arsenal Newcastle assets as well now for Gameweek 11. Yeah, then Simicast for a doggy next week in Gameweek 11. Yeah, I think that is a good consideration for you, and that's why sometimes these questions are ultimately team dependent. Yeah, Lewandowski's injured. I discussed this in the wildcard video, which was uploaded today. Koundé is also out, I think. I'm not sure if he's in the squad, but he should be out for Barcelona. So let's keep an eye out for it. So you're talking about the Barcelona squad in La Liga tonight against Athletic Bilbao. But let's see what the Champions League squad is tomorrow and on Tuesday for the Champions League games this week. Despite Haaland not doing better than Salah this week, I'm still thinking of captaining him against Man United. Yeah, of course, we should consider him. And sometimes it's not that easy. You know, this week people are saying, yeah, early kickoff, so I'm going to go for Haaland. And Salah got 8 more points. The week before that, Son was facing Luton. Oh, no, you have Salah facing Brighton, and he's doing extremely well. Aside from Gameweek 10, which Gameweek is best for the wildcard? Perhaps Gameweek 18 or 19 to potentially set up a triple Man City, triple Brentford for their potential double Gameweek in Gameweek 20. And you can also triple captain Haaland. So, for example, if you don't have Haaland and you decide to go without him until Gameweek 16, 17, 18, you can wildcard him back in, get triple City, triple Brentford, and also enjoy their points in their potential double in Gameweek 20. Is Pedro now a good option? Not necessarily for me. I think too much rotation there. If I want a Brighton player, it would be a Stupinian when he's back and Matoma. Lots of captaincy options is what we want. Same captain every week makes the game boring. Yeah. The only thing I don't like about these sorts of things is sometimes it comes down to some 50-50 swings or, you know, ultimately with the captaincy, there can be some luck involved. But of course, you can say about any part of FPL and UCL fantasy. And yeah, I do like that. I would rather this in terms of more captaincy options than just Haaland every single week. Got 98 points this week, says Adam. Good stuff. If you've got a Spurs player, then the 100 club will happen. Son or Maddison? Yeah, Son. If you can afford it and, you know, there's no other permutations or, you know, compromises you need to make in your team, it would be Son. Haaland did score a hat-trick. Yeah, he did, but it was at home. And at Old Trafford, he blanked and Man United won the game after being 1-0 down. And it was Grealish who scored. So, of course, let's wait and see. I think Haaland will score this time round, but I don't think he'll score a brace or a hat-trick, dare I say. I think he'll save that for Gameweek 11 against Bournemouth. But thank you to everyone for watching. I'm probably going to go off now to watch the F1 because it's so interesting. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this stream to over 150 likes and also get ever closer to 21,000 subscribers. I think we're 40 away or maybe even 30. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon and channel memberships to become a, you just become a channel member or patron, so you can get early access to my videos, also to all my team reveals for UCL Fantasy and FPL, and you can also get these badges and emojis to use in my streams and videos, so that'd be greatly appreciated as well if you want to support the channel even further. There's also the Discord server and the FPL League. Be sure to join all of that. It'd be massively appreciated. We want even more members to grow this community. I want a few more questions very quickly. Mr. Parky says, wildcard Gameweek 7 worked well for me. Missed so many price changes. Have all big names apart from Watkins. I'm worried because soon Alvarez will get a rest. Yeah, I think it is possible, especially with the Champions League this week. So that is a good point, actually. And Watkins is almost essential in Gameweek 10, but from Gameweek 15 onwards, I think the Watkins hype could die down a little bit, but it's worth mentioning he has the third most goal contributions since Unai Emery has taken over. Only Salah and Haaland have more. James Ward-Prowse Neto in Gameweek 11, potentially, but I think I'd rather go for well, I'd rather go for Bowen for starters, but also potentially Diaby, and you've got maybe Gordon as well. But of course, Gordon does face Arsenal in Game Week 11. So yeah, it's not a bad shout. If James Ward-Prowse plays deep again and blanks against Everton, I think it will be time to sell. Got Son, Maddison and Pedro left to play. Good luck, Adam. I mean, yeah, 110 points, 120. The sky's the limit, to be honest. Take care, it's K-Man. Alvarez to Watkins, if possible, I would do it. The only game week where that could backfire in the short term is Game Week 11 against Bournemouth, I think. But it is an upgrade for the time being. Haaland, Kane, Lewandowski, Bellingham, Sane. So yeah, this is a UCL Fantasy team. That is very good for Emmy. Be sure to leave a comment in my UCL Fantasy videos, or even in the Tuesday deadline stream, you can discuss your team even further. But that looks pretty solid. I don't think that needs a wild card necessarily, but Lewandowski is a sell, and you could go to even Lautaro, for example, or where you've got Ter Stegen, you've got Sommer, Bastoni, so you already got a double up in Inter Milan. So in terms of strikers, it's a bit difficult for you maybe. You could just go for Joao Felix as a like for like, or even Alvarez for Lewandowski, and use those funds to upgrade another position. So we can talk more about that in the UCL Fantasy videos and streams. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's been a blast. And how long have we been streaming for? Almost 2 hours. Yeah, that's gone by very quickly. So like I said, smash the like button on your way out. Share this video around with those that love FPL and UCL Fantasy. Keep an eye out for the team selection video tomorrow and the deadline stream on Tuesday for the Champions League. I'm very much looking forward to it, and hopefully there's some more green arrows to come. Let's see what Spurs do against Fulham as well. My red arrow could easily turn into a green, so let's wait and see. But I'll see you very soon for more FPL and UCL Fantasy content, and I wish you all the best, as always.